Welcome back to 933 Sports, episode 7. It's great to be here. What a weekend for the PGA. Absolutely exciting on that. We're going to dive into that. That's going to be pretty much all today is going to be about. Outside of that, there wasn't any whole lot else happening in the sports world this weekend anyway. Rodgers re-signed with the Steelers. Cool. They'll be maybe 10-7 instead of like 8-9. I mean, I don't think it really matters all that much. So anyway, we're going to dive into the PGA Championship. That's really all we're going to talk about today. I just really wanted to start by kind of just going over some general overview stuff, what kind of happened going into the weekend, and then I have the leaderboard pulled up. We'll just kind of talk and work our way through that there. So, I mean, Aronimink was tough. These guys struggled a lot, especially compared to a lot of PGA Championship courses like, very tight fairways, very fast greens, very thick rough. I mean, it was like U.S. Open levels of rough. It was a very difficult course. I said this in my preview, it's going to be very difficult for guys that spray it around to do well here. And that proved to be true. You have a lot of these guys where you play some of these more open PGA Tour courses, even a course like Augusta. You can spray it around a little bit. Even if you're out of position off the tee, you can punch it back in, get up and down for par. On a lot of these holes at Aronimink, it was like if you're in the rough off the tee, you feel like you stole something when you get a par. Like a par feels like a birdie at that point once you miss the fairway off the tee. So, very tough course. It wasn't until Sunday, really, that a lot of guys really started to go low. You saw it throughout the weekend. Just a lot of tough pin locations. Scotty mentioned that in his press conference, and something which was only compounded when you talk about 20, 25-mile-an-hour winds. You saw it all 3 days up before Sunday. There was about half the day it was windy, about half the day it wasn't, and if you weren't in the windy period, you were going low. Otherwise, you kind of struggled a little bit. And, I think that's really why, somebody like Aaron Rai was really just able to outlast the field. I was wrong. I said somebody that's won a major before would win this tournament. Clearly wasn't true. And we'll touch more on that as we kind of work our way through the leaderboard. Just some stuff before we get into the actual leaderboard itself. Had a lot of high-level guys just miss the cut. They just struggled this weekend. Didn't do that great. Max Homa was a big one. Tommy Fleetwood, who a lot of people were really high on coming into major season this year, just had a really bad round. J.J. Spawn, Terrell Hatton, who had played pretty decently at the Masters. Sepp Straka, Gary Littleland. I'm just reading off names that pop up here. Of course, Bryson misses the cut again. I'll just say it. I'm done talking about him until he deserves to be talked about again. He just hasn't done anything recently that deserves him being talked about as one of the best golfers and being a favorite in any of these tournaments. So I'm done talking about him until he proves he's worthy of being talked about, whether that's next month at Shinnecock or at Birkdale or even longer than that. We'll see, but I'm just done. Gonna kind of talk through leaderboard stuff now. Just kind of wanted to touch on some of that general overview stuff. Now we can get into more specific guys. I'm going to start. Scotty was tied for 14th at 2 under. And I want to start there because Scotty is very, very angry right now. I mean, they were talking about this on the broadcast, how he probably had a very long, very frustrating flight back to Dallas because he had so many golden opportunities to make it competitive, to put himself really in the mix, and he just couldn't do it. Because this tournament started like a lot of Scotty's tournaments recently, where Thursday and Friday, he's playing pretty solid. He's a couple more bogeys than we're used to seeing, especially earlier, but hitting some putts where he needs to, playing pretty solid, it's going to make the cut, no problem. And then we get to Saturday, Sunday, and what the past, especially recently, we saw this at the Masters, what we've been seeing is, he gets on a run, and he kind of figures the course out the first 2 days, figures out how he's playing, and then he just gets automatic, specifically with his putter. Anything inside 10 feet becomes basically a gimme for him. He's making that every single time. That's how he plays catch-up, basically, gets back into the mix, and even potentially wins it. Well, Saturday and Sunday this past weekend, he wasn't making anything. Especially inside, in that 10-foot range. He could not make a putt. I never thought I'd say this. I was watching it on Sunday, and I would remember thinking to myself, they're really expecting Scotty to make a putt right now, which is something I never thought I'd wonder about Scotty Scheffler. Normally you just expect, if anything about his game's going to be locked in, it's his putter, and this weekend it was just a mess. I mean, he kept running it by the hole multiple times. I mean, he finished the tournament at 2 under, but it very easily could have been, super duper easily could have been 5 under, if not even lower. And then at that point, you're threatening the lead and you have a chance to really make some noise. So Scotty's going to be frustrated, especially coming in runner-up at Augusta, not really having too many wins this year. He'll have a get-right tournament this weekend at the Byron Nelson, but nobody really cares about that tournament. Whatever. He'll probably blow everybody out, and we'll be done with it. I think this is good motivation for him. Kind of light a fire on him before Shinnecock next month when he tries his first crack at completing the Grand Slam. So he's going to be frustrated, but I think that's going to be a good thing for him. And I think long-term he's going to be better served for it. It was interesting to see him actually get his teeth kicked in at a major for once, instead of, he's top 10 up until this weekend so many times, up until now. He's top 10 so many times. It was kind of a kick in the pants just to see him even finish, T14. That was just out of the ordinary, which I thought was crazy. A couple other guys had pretty good weekends. Justin Rose kind of made a late weekend charge. He shot 6 under on Saturday and Sunday combined, so good for him. Kitayama shot a 63 on Sunday, which is the lowest round ever for a major. I mean, Sunday is, I think, how a lot of people expected this course to play all weekend, but the thing about Sunday was there was no weather as a factor. I mean, you saw it with Kitayama, you saw it with JT, who we'll talk about in a little bit. I mean, I'm looking at it here. You go down that round 4 column, it's a bunch of numbers in the 60s. I mean, nobody that finished, you have to go all the way to Joaquin Niemann, who finished tied for 18th. That's the lowest you have to go to find a guy who shot under par on Sunday. If you were placed high in this tournament, you kind of were middle of the pack, and then you just shot or maybe closer to the top, but then you just went low on Sunday, and that's really where you did well. And then above Kitayama, top T7, you have Cam Smith, Schauffele, and Rory. Cam Smith kind of made a charge on Sunday. He shot a 68 Saturday, 68 Sunday. He was threatening the clubhouse lead for JT for a while there, and then he just kind of missed some putts, kind of got out of position on a couple holes. He really didn't become a factor until Sunday, and then he kind of lost out pretty quick. Not much to talk about there. Xander, kind of the same thing. He was threatening for a while. He was in the mix, but by the time you get to the 12th, 13th hole on the back 9, it was okay, he's not going to win this thing. He came out hot, but actually, never mind. He's probably going to be okay. He's not going to win this thing. Rory's interesting just because of how he started. He shot that 74 in round 1. He had 4 bogeys coming in to finish out. He called his round shit. His words, not mine. And he recovered from that. Shot was his 4th round was his second highest round of the weekend with a 69, but he shot 67 on Friday and a 66 on Saturday. And that's just one of those things where it's that's just Rory being Rory, and that's just greatness personified, because it's okay, yeah, I shot 4 over on the first day. Well, I'm still gonna shoot 3 under on the second day and make the cut. I'm going to shoot even better the day after and really put myself in position on Sunday. And if you look at it on Sunday, that's the biggest thing is it was, since he had not been competitive all weekend, especially after the first round. People weren't really talking about this as much. What we saw on Sunday was more of the Rory McIlroy we've seen for a while in terms of melting down at majors. Now, it wasn't a colossal meltdown. He didn't shoot like 3 or 4 over. He actually shot 1 under. But if you look at his round, it's like, well, he parred both of the par 5s. And on the 9th, I mean, he was using a 7-iron on his second shot. Like, he should have no excuse for anything but a birdie at least, if not putting it close and getting an eagle. But he pars it. He pars the 16th, the par 5, when he really needed to, because he got out of position off the tee, and you just can't recover from that. And then he bogeyed a short par 4. Once again, got out of position on the tee, and it's something we've seen a million times. We've seen it the past 2 years when he's won the Masters. Like, he gets shaky with the driver, and like I already said, at a course like Augusta, that doesn't necessarily kill you as much as it does at Aronimink. He gets out of position with the driver early, and then he's done for. He can't capitalize on those opportunities. And he even said it in his post-round interview, like, he left a lot of meat on the bone. There were really only like 2 or 3 holes. The 2 par 5s and that short par 4, I think it's 13, I can't remember. It's only like 300 yards, which for these guys is nothing. It's uphill, but still, guys were trying to drive it all day, and it was tough. I mean, you saw it with Rory specifically, and you saw it with a lot of these guys hitting out of that rough. You know, you get into your backswing, and you come through, and you can't come all the way through. You can't get your hands around. You can't rotate the club the way you want it to, and everything just comes out fat, because even if you do manage to actually catch ball and strike the ball the way you want it to on the club face, you're getting so much grass caught in between. You're coming up with grass. You can't swing all the way through, so you can't turn your hands as much as you want to. Like, it's just so thick that before and after you strike ball, even if you hit it the way you want it to, you're just not going to be able to spin it and do all the other things that you want it to do. Moving into the top 6 now, or top 5. Yeah, top 6 now. You know, we'll talk about each of these guys. So we had a 3-way tie, T4. You had JT, Matty Schmidt, and Oberg. Oberg obviously was playing with Rye on the last day. He got to bear witness to that crazy round, that crazy back 9 that he had. I mean, props to Oberg, man. I thought he played really well this weekend. I thought there were 1 or 2 putts, especially on Sunday, that he missed that left something to be desired. Not that it matters, because he still would have lost anyway. Round 1 was his only round over par. I thought this was his best major performance, really, since he was the runner-up at Augusta a couple of years ago. And, you know, everybody's kind of asking, when's he going to break through? When's he finally going to win one? When's it going to happen? Because it does kind of feel like inevitably he's going to win a major at some point. If anything, I don't think he's going to win a major this year, but I would watch for next year. And I think it would be either the Masters. It wouldn't be the U.S. Open. Most likely it would probably be the Masters or the PGA next year. That would be my guess, at least. But I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. It's not going to be this year, but obviously he's going to continue contending. I still think he's going to get better. I think he's been playing a lot better this year. He was in the final grouping at the Players. And I think he's just getting more exposure to being in these high-pressure situations, high-volume situations. I mean, when your playing partner on a Sunday at a major is seizing the lead that Rye was, you kind of feel pressure to keep up with him. And, you know, he shot a 69, which it was not a bad score this weekend. Like, he shot 1 under for his day, and that was not a bad score this weekend. He held his own, so I would be encouraged by that. Matty Schmidt was in the final pairing on Sunday. He shot a 65 on Saturday, and that's really what bolstered him up. He kind of came out of nowhere, too. On Saturday, he just shoots a 65, and then you're like, oh, shoot, this guy's 2 shots off the lead, and he just gets assigned to the final group. I mean, he was tied with a couple other guys. He was tied with John Rahm. He was tied with some of those guys, and he just gets assigned that final group. But it was like, oh, shoot, now we have a final group of 2 guys who have a combined 0 majors and 0 PGA Tour wins, period. Like, they haven't won anything, and here they are as the final group on a Sunday. He struggled a little bit. It was just natural nerves, whatever. He shot a 69, which actually was pretty solid, but he did have like a bogey there. He had on 15, that long par 4, he hits the bunker, and then it's a huge lip out, so he has to lay up. He bogeys that hole. Like, it was mistakes guys were making all week, but that was kind of the secret. And that's kind of why Rye won this thing, and we'll talk about that more. It's like, don't be the guy to make the mistake. And Rye wasn't. Everybody else at some point, especially on Sunday, when you have 28 guys within 4 shots of the lead, the biggest key on a course like that where it's playing 1-2 under par for the best guys is don't make the mistake. Don't get greedy, don't make the mistake. And Rye was the one guy all weekend that did not make the mistake. And even still, I mean, he had to kind of catch fire on the back 9 just to pull it out. But Schmid, we'll see what happens with him. I mean, good for him for getting in that spot, but, whatever. JT shoots a 65 on Sunday. It was funny. I had ESPN on that morning, and they keep showing JT, and it's like, wow, he's really making a run at this thing. He's looking good. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, shoot, he's in the clubhouse with a 65. Okay, so he's one shot back on Smalley. Oh, Smalley just bogeyed. And now JT is the clubhouse leader and is tied for the lead. And JT was sitting there for, what was it, like 3 to 4 hours? It wasn't until Rye finished that JT got usurped and could go home. I mean, straight up, could go home. Like, I thought it was crazy. He shoots this 65. He's sitting there 5 under, and you just see this guy bogey. Wind picks up. You see this guy bogey. And it just, guys would touch that 5 under, and then they'd bogey. And, you'd maybe see a guy, until Rye ran away with it, it was kind of like, oh, you'd see a guy birdie, he'd be having one shot birdie lead, but it's like, hey, he's still got 4 or 5 holes to play. That finishing stretch was tough. Outside of 16, 15 through 18, you take 16 out of it, that whole stretch was tough. I mean, you're looking at, the longest par 4 on Saturday was the longest par 4 in major championship history was that par 4 15th. I mean, it was insane. 550 yards or something. It was ridiculous. But JT, I mean, if you're JT, you have to be happy about it. I mean, this is the best performance he's had in a major in a while. Now, he's won the PGA twice before. Those are his only 2 major victories, and it was in very similar fashion to how he would have won this one if he had actually won it. But, very encouraging, kind of an older golfer. You've been around the block a couple times. Just to be able to, T4, you're going to get a hefty payday for it. It has to feel good. Next month at Shinnecock, the Open, I expect him to at least be in contention, make some noise. Would definitely not pick him to win, but, solid. It's good stuff. And then the T2s, Rahm and Smalley. We'll start with Smalley. The Duke grad that beat Scotty in college comes out and does that. He only shot a 68 in round 3. That's what really people aren't really talking about that much is, he was on the leaderboard all weekend. He was probably the most consistent guy on the leaderboard all weekend because a lot of these guys that you see towards the top made a weekend charge or they got hot late on Sunday. I mean, Smalley, you look at it, Sunday was his worst round and he shot an even par. Shot a 67, 69, 68, and then shot even par on Sunday. And, we talk about this a lot where it's like, okay, this is a young guy playing in his first major with a lead. He's in the final group. He was in the final group on both Saturday and Sunday, and he shoots 2 under for the weekend. I got to respect it at that. Like, you have to respect it because it's like, you're in that position where you've never been in the lead at any signature event, any PGA Tour event, any major, to be able to come out and hold your own. Like, we've seen way better golfers in his position come out and fall completely flat. I mean, he did not have a meltdown. He double bogeyed a hole on Sunday, which kind of took him out of it, and it was some of those shots where you're like, really? And he sculled that shot or whatever. And it's like, but like, it wasn't 2011 Masters for Rory. Like, it wasn't some of these epic meltdowns that we've seen from golfers that we consider to be all-time greats. Like, so I would give him a lot of props. Is it going to say he's going to be in major contention going forward? Who knows? I think it was a weird weekend because of the weather, and that's why you have Schmidt and Smalley, some of these guys sitting higher up on the leaderboard. I think weather played a factor in that, just because it was so weird. It was kind of like you just have to outlast the field, and I'm going to talk about that more when I get to Rye. Yeah, I mean, props to them. They deserved it. They both played some great golf in spots, so good for them. But I would be very surprised if, they contend in either of the other two majors this year. That would be very surprising. John Rahm was the other T2. I was rooting for Rahm hard. He struggled in majors ever since joining LIV. Again, this is damning for Bryson because it's like, oh, well, your LIV's buddy's actually playing well in a major, so what the heck, man. I think a lot of us were also rooting for Rahm too because it's like, okay, then you just have the Open to complete the Grand Slam, but he came out hot on Sunday. He goes birdie on the first two holes, and you're like, oh, crap. He's only a shot back. He could actually do this thing. And then it's like, oh, then he bogeys a hole he really shouldn't have. There were one or two putts. They were like 15 to 20 footers, but they were just those putts that it's like, if you want to win a major, you've got to hit those, especially when you've got other guys in this field, this deep field, that are making some of those putts to stay in contention. And he just couldn't do it. And, it's frustrating. I expect him to contend. I especially expect him to contend at the Open this year. I expect him to do really well over across the pond. I would actually bet him to top 10 if I was betting, man, at the Open. Next month at Shinnecock's going to be tough. That course is hard. I mean, you thought this past weekend was hard. This U.S. Open's always really hard. It's going to be extremely hard at Shinnecock, so I would not. It's going to be pretty open there. And then we got to talk about our champion at the PGA. Aaron Rai. He's 1 over on his round on Sunday, and then he hits an eagle on 9, and just goes on one. I mean, it's like all-time great. I mean, you're talking like Tiger levels of like just wow. Like, just dominant 9 holes. I mean, about as great. I mean, you want to include the eagle. That's about as great as of a 10-hole stretch as you could play. Sunday at a major, you're 1 over on your round, and you just shoot 6 under on the final 10 holes because he finished his round at a 65. He was the only player in the field to shoot a better round every single day. 70, 69, 67, 65. He was 9 under. 8 under. Nope, I got it right the first time. 8 under for the weekend. It's crazy. In a weekend where he shot 8 under over the weekend, nobody else even shot 6 under for the tournament. Like, that's how insane he actually played over the weekend. I mean, and, I will say this. The broadcast had talked about this a lot. How Scotty and Rory, before this weekend, had won 4 of the last 5 majors. And if you want to include Xander in talk Scotty, Rory, and Xander, they have combined for 7 of the last 9. The only 2 those 3 haven't won have been the last 2 U.S. Opens. Bryson won at Pinehurst, and then Spawn won at Oakmont last year. And the thing about those 2 is those have been by far the 2 toughest major courses that we've played in that time. They've also, and it's kind of the same thing as this weekend was, tough course, wild conditions. I mean, at Oakmont last year, it rained a ton, and it was like the few times we've seen a seemingly random guy come out of nowhere recently and win a major, it's been a weird situation, and you just outlast the field. Like I said earlier, just don't be the guy to make the mistake. And Rai wasn't. He just did not make a mistake. He has the eagle on 9, but on the back 9, yeah, he had a couple birdies, but really he was just playing solid golf. He just did not miss. Like, on that short par 4, he has a great shot out of the bunker to make birdie, and he kind of steals one back because a lot of guys have been parring or bogeying that hole all day, and that was kind of a big turning point. And then, of course, he hits that 68-foot putt on 17, and that's the putt that, like, seals it and wins it, and it's a great moment. It's the greatest moment of the weekend by far. But you look at it, it's like he didn't even need that putt to win the tournament. Like, if he two-putts that for par, he still wins by 2 shots. Like, and, you know, it was crazy. Before he hits that putt, they're saying this is going to be a difficult 3-putt, and they're like, nah, screw you. And I do find it funny, you know, the irony of the fact that the putt that wins Rye the PGA that he didn't really need, Spawn won the U.S. Open last year on a putt that he for birdie that he didn't really need to get it to win by 2 shots. And so, and it's kind of the same thing. Like I said, it's these, you know, lesser known guys kind of just outlasting the field. And even in the case of Spawn and Rye, they're not young guys. Like we saw Matty Schmid, we saw Smalley, we saw them also kind of outlast the field, not really make the big mistake until Sunday because, you know, it just kind of happens. Spawn and Rye, Rye's a 14-year tour vet. Like he's been pro for a while. But so he's just kind of been around the block. And we talk about that all the time with these guys. You have to get experiences in these majors before you can really come out and win one just because it's a high-pressure situation. It's just you out there, and you have to figure that out. But Rye winning's why we love sports. It was so great to see. Of course, he has that 5-year major exemption now, so it'll be fun to see him at these other events. Obviously, you know, he's a major champion, and nobody can take that away from him. So congrats to him. The double gloves are interesting. I've never been a fan of iron covers, but I also have never held the Wanamaker. So, you know, I guess after that I can't really talk too much. I always dissed that. I was like, why do you have iron covers? And I still feel like I still do, but, you know, I also, that guy's a major champion, and I'm not. So, you know, maybe I don't have as much room to talk. What a weekend for golf. I mean, seriously, it's so rare that we have a tournament, especially a major, where, you know, we're walking into Sunday and we just have that stacked leaderboard. And what was nice about it is you had major winners, multi-time major winners, guys going for their first major. And amongst that group, you had guys that nobody really knew as well, so kind of like the underdogs. You had guys that were kind of hot shots. It's like, is this going to be their first? And so to see Rye just catch fire and really set himself apart, like that's just a really impressive thing to do. I mean, it's, you know, it's fun, like at the PGA at Ocala, and when Scotty, when he won the PGA and the Open last year, he just kind of decimated the field. Which, you know, is greatness in of itself, but when you're just in the pack like that and you're just able to make a run, I mean, it's why either scenario is fun to watch, and it's why major championship golf is so fun to watch, and it's why we love sports. It was a great weekend. Congrats to Aaron Rye, and I look forward to next month at Shinnecock. It's going to be very interesting, these last 2 majors this year, because you're going to have a lot of guys, you know, a lot of guys wanting to build off the momentum that they started this weekend, and a lot of guys that are very frustrated at how they played. I mean, we talk about Scotty specifically. Like, there's a lot of guys that are going to feel like, you know, I hit 1 or 2 more of these seemingly gimme putts. It's like, well, I'm right there in the mix. So it'll be fun. Appreciate everybody for listening, as always. Have a good one. And yeah, signing off for now. See ya.